Hello everyone, this is Tarvish, and today we're going to be giving you a tier list of the best general perks, all-around perks for Devour. We're ranking them from S tier, which is the best, to D tier, which is the worst. Basically, S tier, these are the ones, if you're new to the game, you definitely want to invest in first, and D tier, you can do without these. You basically never touch them. So, let's get into it. And the first thing we're going to be doing is starting with Crawler. Crawler gives you plus 100% movement speed when you're knocked down. This is going straight into the D tier, unfortunately. It's actually one of the first perks that you'll probably have. But, yeah, there's really no reason to get Crawler. Honestly, if your team's doing what they're supposed to be doing and you're effective, Crawler's kind of a pointless perk to have. Just because you can move twice as fast crawling doesn't mean anything. Usually your team will have medkits set up, in a certain area. You know where to crawl to, they know where to run to, or somebody's already on the way. Or if it's a bad enough situation, Crawler's not going to help you out of it anyway. It's a perk that is needed in any other time other than when you're down. So Crawler, unfortunately, it's a speed boosting perk, but it's the speed boosting perk at the worst possible time. So Crawler, D tier. After that, we have Acceleration, which is plus 20% movement speed for 20 seconds after being revived. Now, to be perfectly honest with you, I think Acceleration kind of belongs in the D tier, but I'm actually going to be putting it later on in the C tier, because Acceleration does something that Crawler doesn't. It does give you that huge boost of speed, but in a more crucial time, which is usually like, in the late game when somebody gets down, you have to pick them up immediately so that everybody can scatter and, grab that last ritual item or something like that. Usually someone's running in right behind the demon, right behind Azazel with a medkit, and they're ready to, get you up and get you out of there. That is what Acceleration is for. It's for those last minute plays, but they're so, few and far between that it's almost kind of pointless, but not as pointless as Crawler. So, comfortably in the C tier, but you'll see later on, I think it's going to be in the bottom of the C tier. Next up, we have Long-Sighted. All items are highlighted at a 50% greater distance. I mean, honestly, this is still a D tier perk. You can see items from a pretty decent distance away from now you're basically seeing them from, that distance and a half again. It's not that useful, to be honest with you. I mean, it may be very situational, extremely situational, and that's what I think mostly D tier perks are such situational perks that they're never really useful. Being able to, clear a room and see if a room has, like, keys or flashlight batteries or, gas cans or anything like that, while useful, yes, does not require that big of a distance to be able to see. You're not going to be able to, like... The only few things that I can really think of is maybe something like the cafeteria in the asylum and maybe this very end of the saloon, but that doesn't even matter because then you still have to go upstairs, and just like in the asylum, you still have to go upstairs. So the extra distance on seeing things, it's not worth it. It's not worth equipping this item, really. After that, we have Quartermaster. Medkits are viewable through walls. Now I'm going to be putting this into B tier. Honestly, the medkits being able to see through walls is actually kind of golden, not just for the person being down, but the person who's running around looking for medkits like, oh my gosh, where is this? But honestly, this is still a newbie perk. Usually, if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing and you're doing it correctly, this perk should not be required because everybody already knows where all the medkits are, unless you've gone through all the medkits for some reason. And by that time, you're in a really big amount of trouble. But being able to see medkits through walls and stuff like that, that is extremely, extremely useful because those are usually the one piece of equipment that you're actually looking for in an emergency is a medkit. So it's in B tier. Now, this one might be controversial. Supply Runner, I'm honestly going to be putting into S tier. Supply Runner says that you run 15% faster when you're carrying a ritual item on every single map. This is a useful perk. If you want to go from one side of the map to the other the fastest possible while carrying that ritual items, Supply Runner has you covered. And since you are almost always carrying a ritual item in the farm, or say the inn, or even the asylum, this perk has you covered, especially in emergencies, and later on when you're at like 7 to 8 items burnt, this can still give you that little bit of edge to get the ritual item to the sacrificial area. And it also lets you scout areas faster just by holding a ritual item. It doesn't have to be an active ritual item, it just has to be a ritual item, period. So you have your goat, run around the farm as fast as possible, outspeed everybody else, and scout out for more goats. If you're on the inn, same thing with the eggs, you're moving faster, the spiders aren't really going to be that much of an issue for you. Asylum, same thing. Town, same exact thing. Just run around with a book. But that's why I think it's S tier. It's always a useful perk for any map. Supply Runner is just useful. And that's what I'm looking for when I say, are these universally useful? That's what S tier is for. Are they like so situational that you basically are better off not using them? That's what D tier is for. After Supply Runner, we have Speedy, which is plus 7% movement speed. In general, I'm going to say this is a very good perk all around. For any map. I used to use it in certain solo runs because it, plus 7% movement speed all the time is very, very good, but it doesn't give you anything else. Supply Runner is over double that and only requires that you do what you're going to be doing anyway, which is carrying a ritual item. That's why Supply Runner is S tier, A tier for Speedy. But again, Speedy has that I don't have conditions, you just move 7% faster, which is not bad, but it's not as good as Supply Runner because Supply Runner's only caveat is something that you're going to do anyway, so it's automatically better. Speedy's comfortably in the A tier. I'd get Speedy over any of these any day of the week. Next up we have Fast Worker. Fast Worker is going into S tier, and you can put Fast Worker here, or you can put Fast Worker at the top of S tier. I'm probably going to put it at the top of S tier. Fast Worker says that all long interacts except for revives are 50% faster. This is useful on every map except Asylum, where there are no fast interactions except for revives. Now, the reason I still put this ahead of Supply Runner is because Fast Worker gives you the option to burn the goats faster on the farmhouse. Twice as fast, which means you're getting stuff done twice as fast, or basically twice as fast in that one. In the Asylum, it has no real use, but when you go to the inn, not only is the fast interaction cleansing the water, it's cleansing the egg and then burning the egg. That's 3 uses for Fast Worker instead of Supply Runner. When you go to the town, you have to burn, or you have to activate the books by cursing them at the pentagrams, and then you have to burn the books. Again, twice as fast, 2 things. Supply Runner does 1, which gets you from point A to point B. Fast Worker lets you cut down on so much time. And while it doesn't have any use whatsoever in the Asylum, it makes up for it by having 3 uses in the inn and 2 uses in the town. Now, it's just an awesome perk overall. This is probably one of the first perks I would ever pick up. And then Supply Runner. It depends, because this is 5, and I believe this was 3 points. So, cost, effectiveness, if you really want to start getting, into the game, maybe grab Supply Runner and then grab Fast Worker. Next, after that, we have Repellent. This one makes minion movement speed 50% slower when you're nearby. And honestly, this one's going to be C tier for me. I'm going to tell you why. The minions already move pretty slow to begin with. It's when later on in the game they get a little bit faster and faster and faster, to the point where they're almost at your walking speed, or actually they're faster than your walking speed, not your sprinting speed. Excuse me. But having them be 50% slower when you're around, it's not really that useful, because your whole purpose is to try and avoid them to begin with if you can, and when you can't, you you have your flashlight, except for on Nightmare where you might be, you know, a little bit low on flashlight battery power. It still really shouldn't matter all that much. You should still be able to avoid them. The only places where you really cannot avoid minions are the straightaways in the asylum. That's when it gets really difficult, or maybe like you get really, really unlucky in the farmhouse. Beyond that, I would still say that it's a little bit more useful than like acceleration or something like that, but it's not. It really, like these two, anything in C tier can kind of be tossed around like back and forth. They're niche usefulness at best. Coming up next, we have, what is it? Regeneration. Now, regeneration, I'm going to be putting right up here in A tier. I mean, I could probably easily put it in S tier as well. I might. It's difficult. It's difficult to... Honestly, regeneration could be top of A tier or like bottom of S tier. It could be either one. And just trying to think. I'm going to keep it in A tier only because it does not cover Nightmare mode. So what regeneration does is it you get your UV your flashlight battery power back 50% faster on normal modes, and on hard modes this is absolutely fantastic, especially in later games. If you're in hard mode, Azazel's going to berserk and rage out faster and more often, so having your UV available more often is just better. In fact, there are plenty of situations you can get into where somebody's ran out of flashlight, the other person's ran out of flashlight, the other person, well, you have your flashlight and it's already back up, so you take that, and by the time, you know, yours is gone, everybody else's is, you know, finally about to be ready and to be useful, and yours is almost ready again as well. So by the time somebody else uses your flashlight, you probably have flashlight ready to go. I cannot stress how good this perk is for normal modes and hard modes. The only reason it's not in S tier is because it does not contribute to Nightmare modes, whereas Fast Worker and Supply Runner do. But it is useful on every single map. It is useful for every single difficulty except for Nightmare mode. So UV, regeneration, easily top of A tier, bottom S tier. You could really put it anywhere, but I'm putting it, these perks right here are all universally, basically almost every map and every single difficulty, which is why, like, while Fast Worker isn't useful on one map, it's useful in every single category of difficulty. Can't really talk. After regeneration, we have Field Medic, which is revives players 50% faster. Now, this in a team environment, which is what I'm mostly thinking of, really, really good, but niche. Honestly, when you put medkits down, the person's supposed to be crawling to the medkits, and the medkits are supposed to be somewhere safe and out of the way. You should not need plus 50% revive time, which is why I'm probably going to put this right over here, top of C tier. It could probably be bottom of B tier. You know, it's a very useful thing that is useful when it kind of doesn't need to be. If they said like 75% faster or more, easily bumps up to B tier, you know, maybe top of B tier, low A tier, just because 75% faster is almost like that. You know, really awesome, but again, it's in a situation where you don't really need the speed boost. You should have already planned out, you know, we're going to put these over here in a safe spot where we don't have to worry about how much time we have to revive somebody. That's why Field Medic is going into top of C tier. After that, we have Fully Charged. Now, Fully Charged says when you use a battery, your UV consumption is infinite, basically, for 20 seconds. You don't run out of UV for 20 seconds, which is super useful. But when people think, when I use the battery, most people think when I right-click, you know, or, you know, whenever I use my UV light, it turns on 20 seconds worth of permanent, you know, UV, which is not the case. What it actually means is when you equip a battery, you have 20 seconds to have infinite UV. Now, this one is a really, really, really good perk for the 20 seconds that it's there for. Honestly, I'm going to put it probably at the top of B tier. It could be low A, but I think it goes top of B. It's useful in those very, very stressful situations where you know you're going to have to stun Azazel and probably a few minions, and, so you can cover everybody while they get out, or they burn that last ritual item. And it's useful in Nightmare mode, because in Nightmare mode, your UV and your battery life is pretty crucial to keep available. So being able to, especially in Nightmare mode, equip a battery and have 20 seconds of infinite UV, so you can clear out a whole room of minions, or stun Azazel, run away, and by the time Azazel gets to you, bam, you still have that 20 seconds left. You can't really put a price tag on that. Oh, thank you.
I think you're going to be talking a lot.
Yeah, thank you. But the problem with fully charged, is that you have to have a battery available to equip. You have to equip it, and then you'll get the effect. You have those two caveats. And the problem is, if you're carrying around a battery waiting for the perfect time to equip it and get that 20 seconds, you're not carrying a ritual item, you're not carrying a medkit, you're not carrying gasoline, you're not being useful, you're potentially being useful. And the potential to be useful and the actual ability to be useful are two different things. That's why it's at the top of B tier and not in, say, A or S tier. Now, maybe if they say when you equip a battery, the next time you start to use your battery, you have 20 seconds, then it would jump up into A tier. But as it stands right now, comfortably at the top of B tier. Now, after fully charged, we have supercharged, which, just like fully charged, supercharged gives you an effect after equipping a battery, and that effect is moving 20% faster after you use a battery. This is not as useful as its B tier counterpart. This is probably somewhere around C tier, low C tier. Equipping a battery and moving 20% faster, okay, fine. But that also means that you're running around with a battery, waiting to equip a battery so that you can move 20% faster. Meanwhile, again, you could have been doing something much more useful with your time and not having to worry about timing a 20% speed boost. This is honestly, I don't even know if I would put it in low C tier. I think I would it's probably going to go into D tier. A 20% speed boost for 20 seconds is fine, but up here you have a 15% speed boost that is permanent, and all it requires is for you to be useful and carry a ritual item. This says hold a battery and wait to equip it to get 20 seconds worth of infinite, which we could have here. 7% permanent with no requirement here. That's why I think supercharged, its effect is just, it's not worth the two caveats and the lack of doing anything else in order to really take advantage of it. After supercharged, we have Trapper. The last ritual item becomes highlighted. So I'm going to put Trapper right here, high-ish C tier. Trapper can be useful for new players who are learning the game and don't really know where all the possible spawn points are and stuff like that. I had a game last week where I put it on because I was with new players in the end, and I was like, if it comes down to it, and it usually does with new players, and everybody else is down, I can find the last egg and I can run and burn it. You have to know who you're playing with, and if you don't know who you're playing with, like I didn't, but you know their relative skill level, which you can by looking at their cult rank, you can kind of gauge whether or not you need something like this. Is it useful? Yes, technically it is, but is it useful enough for people who have played to get, say, rank 6 to 10? No, because you know kind of where most things spawn by that point. Like if you're on the farm, just keep the door closed until it's time to actually get the goat out of that door or something like that. You have the map knowledge and awareness to be able to go around and find what you need. And it's really only useful on 3 out of the 4 current maps. And it's at the most dangerous part of the game. You get the effect when it's in the most dangerous part of the game, where, you should already have that last ritual item. So, can it be useful? Sure. Is it going to be useful? Most likely not. So it's not worth really the current investment. Right up here, these are where you want to start. After Trapper, we have Evader, plus 25% movement speed when being chased by Azazel. Now I'm going to put this right here at the bottom of S tier, I'm sorry. Mostly because these two are always useful. This one, it gives you a huge speed boost when you most need it, but and it's useful in team play. In team play, you can have one person who's designated to run Azazel. They'll grab a ritual item, which immediately makes Azazel want to chase that person. If they're the closest person to Azazel with a ritual item, they're definitely getting chased. And up to about, say, 7 or 8 sacrifices, Azazel will still be slower than this person. And if this person knows how to loop Azazel, correctly on the map, they can take Azazel to about 8 or 9 ritual items burned before Azazel can actually catch them in the right loop spot. This is an absolute pro perk that if you really want to learn to loop Azazel and get that excitement of Azazel chasing you, you need to learn. Somebody on your team might always want to have this on just to be able to give the rest of their team an easier time of, grabbing the rest of the ritual items. But it's something that you have to understand. Eventually, you won't be faster than Azazel no matter how good you are at looping. Azazel's still going to catch you. But for 99% of the games that you run, if you're running with your squad and friends and stuff like that, this is going to help you out by making you the center of attention while everybody else does the work in the background. It's a lot of fun. It's a very useful perk. It's useful in every single map because Azazel's on every single map. So there's that. Right after Evader, we have Immune, which is movement speed is decreased 70% less when you're slowed down by a minion. Now, unfortunately, while it is one of the newer perks, I'm going to be putting it right around here in C tier. Immune is giving you 70% less slowdown on when you're grabbed by a minion. This is only useful on 2 maps currently, which is the inn and the town, because only those minions right now slow you. On the farmhouse, the demons grab you and you don't get to move. And same on the asylum, the minions grab you, you don't get to move. It's not slowdown, it's just you don't move. And because it's only useful on 2 maps, that's a really big negative for it. After that, it can teach you really bad habits. Like, oh, there's just a room, a hallway full of spiders, I can just run right through them. That's teaching you bad habits. It's not teaching you to avoid the minions, that's just teaching you to go straight through the minions because you're not slowed down as much. Honestly, I would probably lower it a little bit just because of the bad habits that it can possibly teach you. The fact that it's only useful on 2 maps, and the fact that really you should just be avoiding the minions or banishing the minions instead of running through them. You don't want to get into the habit of running through them just because you have Immune. So, unfortunately for Immune, it goes close to the bottom of C tier. Next after that, we have Team Leader. Long interacts are 100% faster around any living players. Now, this is actually a really good perk just because you're basically a team buffer. You're getting everybody to do everything faster when it comes to long interacts. So that means, burning things, cursing things, reviving players, anything like that. So long as you're around, you're useful. You're being useful just by being around. Now, the one caveat is that you do have to be around that person, which means you don't get to spread out as much. And on something like, say, the town, where everybody's spread out grabbing the books, you're not useful because you're one of the people that are grabbing one of these books. When it comes to burning the books, sure, it's fantastic. When it comes to reviving people, again, not that good on the town specifically, because you're probably wanted somewhere else doing something else, not running along with somebody so that you can make sure that they can pick somebody up 50% or 100% faster. You really want to use this map on maps where you're all together kind of helping and doing the same thing, something like the farmhouse or the inn. And again, it's a little bit of a mixture of those two and the town when it comes to the inn, because you spread out to do the eggs, but you can actually come together to revive somebody in the laundry room in the safe spot. They can do it 100% faster. You can hang out by the pool to let them cleanse the pool water and cleanse the eggs faster, still double dipping in the usefulness. The asylum, you can't really do anything other than, stand around and help somebody get picked up faster. But in the asylum, it's actually a good thing, because sometimes, especially in the late game, you need that body block or that extra flashlight defense. So you can be that body block or that extra flashlight defense while you guys run over and get somebody picked up. So that's why it's an A tier. It's a very useful perk. It lets you buff who needs to be buffed in the situation. And it's always useful on every single map, unless you're playing solo, and then it's not useful at all. But this is a general tier list, not a solo tier list. Okay, so up next, we have the last one, Under Pressure, which says long interacts are 50% faster when you are the last player alive, and it can only be used in co-op. So Under Pressure is unfortunately going to be going into D tier. It's not as useful as it seems. It requires you to be the last person alive, which means you are already kind of boned. It means you already have to be the person who's going to run over and either grab that last ritual item and burn it, grab that last medkit, hope you can get to the person and revive them. You have to do something all by yourself. That's not a situation you want to be in, and honestly, if you are playing in a team, they should be crawling to you to get to the revive point where you guys have set up your medkits anyway. So honestly, picking somebody up 150% faster when all three people are dead is not really going to make that much of a difference, because you still have 2 other people to get up, or you still have something else to burn. It's a it's a speed boost. It's an incredible speed boost when you need it, but it's an incredible speed boost that means you're probably going to be losing the game, and this perk isn't going to help you, come back from it most likely. Because again, if it's a revive that you need to do, you should already have a safe spot set up so that you can do revives safely. If it's a ritual item that you have to get rid of, again, you have to get through minions, you have to dodge Azazel, and you still have to do the whole burning process. Unless it's a rat, which, it's flip of the switch, but still, 3 out of the 4 maps say it's going to be a long interact. Yes, that long interact is going to be 150% faster, but getting to that long interact is also going to be an issue. So that's why Under Pressure sits in the D tier for me. So this is our general tier list of best to worst perks for every map and every difficulty. These perks right here in the S tier are the first ones. If you're brand new to the game, you want to invest in these perks first, which are Fast Worker, Supply Runner, Innovator. These are the perks that are really going to, help you out. This one's a little niche because it depends on your ability to learn the maps and stuff like that. But once you've learned them, it's an absolute god tier perk. After that, Regeneration, Speedy. These are the kind of ones you want to pick up next, but these are also on the cheaper side. This is actually probably the most expensive perk that you're going to invest in. And then after that, these are very situational perks. These situations come up more often or are more useful. These situations don't come up as much, but they're still okay-ish when it comes to that situation. And these perks right here in the D tier, there are better perks for every single one of these perks already up here, or there's better situations that, these perks up here are already better, and it doesn't matter about these situations because you can prep for them anyway. So I hope you all found this general tier list interesting and useful. We have 2 more months until we get the Slaughterhouse update, when we're getting 2 new perks that we know for sure. I'll update the tier list then. But hopefully you enjoyed this, and we're going to be doing a tier list for perks, best perks for the farmhouse, the asylum, the inn, and the town later on. So thank you for watching the tier list. Hope you all enjoyed it. Have a great day, and stay positive.